Welcome to the Mental Health and You podcast. This podcast brings you information and advice from across the Norfolk and Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust, with a range of teams, services and those who use them sharing their experiences and wisdom with us every fortnight.
Hello everyone and welcome to this month's podcast with the Recovery College. My name is Danny. I'm one of the staff that work in Recovery College. I'm the Partnerships and Promotion Lead. And with me this month we have...
Morning, my name's Hannah. I'm one of the practitioner tutors here at Recovery College.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm one of the peer tutors here at Recovery College and former student as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Rowena and I'm the Senior Administrator at the Recovery College.
Brilliant, thank you. And thanks everyone for obviously coming along and participating in this podcast. Hopefully it'll be quite a practical one for people to find out more about the Recovery College. So what we're going to talk about today really is a journey into Recovery College. So that will loosely cover things like what the Recovery College is, what we tend to do, what to expect in terms of signing up and going on courses, and a bit more information on practicalities of how to sign up to a course as well. So we'll kind of work for those different things as we go along today. So first, I thought it might just be useful to talk about perhaps what the Recovery College is, particularly for people that have never perhaps heard of Recovery College. So we've been around for about 10 years now, the Recovery College in NSFT. And what we aim to provide are educational courses on mental health recovery. And we're very much kind of an add-on to any form of treatment or perhaps therapy, counselling, medication reviews, anything like that. We are there as an educational add-on to hopefully enhance areas around that, but not as a replacement. So we tend to focus on tools and strategies and techniques that people can learn themselves to become more experts in their own self-care and their own mental health recovery, to be more informed and hopefully be able to perhaps make different lifestyle changes or decisions around their own kind of mental health. So that's a quick overview in regards to who we are. So we're very much more of an educational provider.
Just thinking about that, Danny, something that people do sometimes say to me when they're really exploring Recovery College for the first time is education wasn't a great place for me. Perhaps people have had a diagnosis in their lives that means that formal environment was quite hard for them. Is that something that you would, how would you respond to people who are a little bit worried about that when they come to Recovery College?
I think that's a really valid question, Hannah. Thank you. It's a really good point. So although we were called a Recovery College, and I suppose the name Recovery College implies that it might be quite perhaps formal or academic or have tests, all of that it couldn't really be any further from the truth, really. So although we're educational, we don't have any tests, we don't have any exams. The sessions themselves are very informal. They're very much based upon sort of group learning within all the students in the sessions. There's always an option to pass or participate. Most of the sessions are very interactive, and we use kind of more active learning, where we might put in particular exercises or activities to draw upon some of the experiences of the students in the room. And it's very much all based around people, what we call kind of more self-directed learning. So self-directed learning kind of covers that people can learn at their own pace, and the direction of that learning is kind of more dictated by them as individuals in terms of how much they would like to sort of take on board, how much they would like to sort of work towards in regards to their recovery. But there's certainly no kind of tests or any sort of formal academic type sort of test that you might get at university or college or anything like that. It is quite different from that.
Oh. Yeah, that really helps. And just, it sounds like a lot of the learning comes from one another. Would you sort of say that's the key message that we have for people?
I think that's a good point as well. Yeah, absolutely. So we always have specific content for each of the courses. So for example, one of our courses is on understanding psychosis. So obviously that has content throughout the session specific to kind of psychosis, for example. But a huge part of that session and all the sessions, as you mentioned, is that we then draw upon and offer the opportunity for people to be able to share their own experiences, their own insights, to be able to perhaps offer up their own lived experience, what's worked for them, any barriers they faced, how they overcome those barriers. So yeah, absolutely. A huge part of the sessions is orientated around people attending being able to share their experiences amongst others in the group. So everybody in the room is kind of considered as valuable as everybody else. Mark, would you be happy perhaps just to sort of give an overview of when you first attended Recovery College and how it was like for you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so when I first came here, I was at a real bad low in my health. I'd gradually sort of retreated and pretty much stopped talking. It was very much withdrawn, quite opposite now. But yeah, I remember sort of being signposted to Recovery College by a care coordinator I had. And yeah, I came in knowing it was a sort of learning experience and it was about sort of gaining tools for myself. I was also completely terrified. But like things that I really noticed were initially that there were two tutors and I was informed that one had lived and one had learned experience. And that made a real impression on me that, oh, well, there's going to be people here who understand a bit more what I might be going through. I also found that one of the best things was that the rest of the people in the course who were attending were really supportive. That there was a real sort of comfort about being in that room with them. I was also completely terrified, so I did run out partway through, but I really kind of was drawn back by that knowledge of the support that was in that room. And I think luckily I picked a course initially that was over a few weeks. So I went back and I had those same people. And yeah, initially that support kind of really made an impression on me at first.
We're really glad you came back, Mark.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Mark. I was just going to ask as well, because that was a really useful overview. And perhaps is there anything you wanted to add about the fact that we're called Recovery College and we also talk about education, but obviously your own experience of that, what it was like for you?
Yeah, well, I came into it knowing it wasn't like traditional college. I knew from the outset that there wasn't exams to be had, and that it was for me to really, like the tutors also, reaffirmed it by saying that it was about what I could take in for myself, and I didn't have to like worry about getting everything, and it was really about me sort of finding things and tools for myself. I was encouraged that, if you found, I think I got to an end of a course and didn't feel like I fully understood it. And I was encouraged, well, you can come and do it again. So, yeah, I knew that it was about learning and it was about education, but it was more about me educating for myself. I wasn't, there wasn't an exam or anything like pressurized that I was worried about. But I noticed some of them were sort of very broad and they were sort of like, ones I noticed like 5 Ways of Wellbeing was one that was very, very light and very creative, what I found out. And then there was ones that I sort of didn't know about, but I were actually very sort of informative, and like doing ACT was a really important one for me. But yeah, really like realizing that there were some that were very focused on subjects like living well with hearing voices and what is anxiety. Which were really good because they were just like a really short one and they were very focused on one subject, and that was really useful for me to have one or two that were like that. But equally I didn't expect to, but I found a lot of good things in going to courses where they were multiple weeks just for the bonding experience with other people, and I learned so much from the actual people attending the courses as well as the course themselves. So yeah, I think it was good to have ones that were very light, for like when I was sort of starting and it was still very intense and I was still very withdrawn. And I think the ones where it was multiple people, multiple weeks, that was really a great sort of one for bringing me out and sort of making me feel more confident with them. And eventually being able to do ones like ACT really, really helped. Ones that, were, I knew maybe a bit more information heavy or a bit more kind of intensive. I was able to sort of have those towards the end or after I'd done a few courses. And that was really good to know as well, that there was sort of a progression of ones that I could do. if that makes sense.
That's such a valid point, isn't it, Mark? Because there's quite a few courses on our timetable, and I'm just thinking, Danny, if somebody was listening and they were just wondering where to start, okay, that sounds great, but where do I even start? What would be your advice, do you think, about picking a course?
So we have what I would call a kind of rough structure for people to be able to consider which order to choose courses. The reason I say a rough structure is that it might be quite helpful, but equally we never say you must start here. There's always an element of free choice where people would like to start. So for example, if people feel perhaps they're in a better place to be able to take on more information, concentrate for longer periods of time, or there's something really specific that they are after, then they might want to start slightly further down the line. Equally, some people perhaps who are very new to the recovery model and the recovery college, who aren't sure or perhaps are a bit anxious or less confident, might want to start at more of a beginning course. We have a rough structure which is shown on our website and our prospectus, and it's basically beginning, building, understanding, and growing, and they kind of pick up as they go through. In perhaps they pick up in maybe duration, or they might pick up in terms of how involved people are within the sessions, or how much information there is to take on board and process. So it's kind of a rough structure that might be helpful. So, for example, if someone is completely new to recovery college and just wanted to pop along, they might want to consider something like what is recovery, or there's a course called CHIME, which is a sort of a 5-letter acronym around elements of personal recovery that help people in terms of their own mental health. So CHIME is an acronym for connections, hope, identity, meaning, and empowerment. So that course, or maybe, for example, what is recovery, might be a good place to start. But there might be really specific courses. So Mark mentioned a couple of times the ACT course, and ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. Just to avoid confusion, because I know very much earlier on we said the Recovery College doesn't provide sort of therapy or counselling. So the ACT course, Acceptance Commitment Therapy, is very much kind of training and education on a therapy model, so people can take bits of that and perhaps apply it to themselves outside of Recovery College. So that's perhaps quite important to differentiate that. So that might be sort of a rough order to start things on. Mark, would you be happy again just maybe to sort of talk about some of the courses you've been on and your experience of those, give an overview, and some of the courses that you've also delivered?
Yeah, absolutely, sure. So the very first one that I mentioned that I turned up to was I think I wanted to know, I was very curious about how to tell your story. So that was the first one that I went to. And I actually found that was also the one of the most sort of challenging in a good way. I actually kind of ended up doing that course about 3, maybe 4 times, because every time I came back to it, I sort of picked up something new. So that was my first one, but I tried to just go through as many as I felt applicable. So I did 5 ways of well-being. I did what is anxiety. I did living well with hearing voices, and I think the one that was the most impactful to me was taking the ACT course, because it was looking at my mental health from a totally different perspective than I ever had before, which was sort of quite eye-opening really, and a bit of a game changer, sort of learning about reframing and about sort of looking at things in balance and duality of situations and stuff, and that was really, really useful to me. So I ended up actually probably with yourself tutoring how to tell your story the most. I've kind of been involved in some other ones. The ones that I just mentioned that I took, I ended up have tutored on those in the past as well now. But how to tell your story, I think because I found it so interesting, it was the one that I've ended up tutoring the most on here. And it's always one that's really insightful. I always sort of learn more things about, because it's, there's so much discussion that goes on in it, that I'm still, when I'm tutoring it and facilitating it, I'm still learning new things from that one, which is really, really, really lucky to sort of be around that. But the other one that I got to do that's much more sort of lighter entry one was creativity and well-being, which I'm now tutoring on as well, which I really enjoy doing. It's quite a sort of different level to how to tell your story. It's a lot lighter. It's a lot more entry. There's like proper creativity going on, and there's actual bits of, you know, drawing and writing and stuff. And I think if somebody was coming in to Recovery College and they wanted to just have a few courses, that would be a really good one to do. Also as well, because it's a 2-week course, and I noticed even if there's a 2-week course, the people from the first week bond a little bit, and then when they see themselves the next week, there's much more bonding. I think that's a really lovely part of being a Recovery College student, is, you know, going on courses that last more than 1 week, or going on courses and, you know, meeting someone and then seeing them again on another course. Yeah, I've noticed, you know, that's one of the sort of nice asides of doing all the courses here, I think, is the sort of bonding that you get with other people on the courses. Yeah, so I think those are sort of some of the ones I really particularly like and have enjoyed tutoring, but there's more being developed now. So I think in the sort of next year or so, there's going to be even more courses to sort of get involved in and go on, which I might well do.
Definitely. So, thank you, Mark. That's really useful. And I just thought, actually, Hannah, are you happy to talk about your experience of tutoring, but also would you be happy just to talk about the difference between the webinars and the Zoom courses and the face-to-face ones as well?
Yeah, oh, definitely, because that makes such a difference as well. Because it's so, you know, interesting to hear what Mark's saying about, it's about more than just the information you take away from the course. It's about having that safe space to share something important to you, perhaps feeling that you've really formed a connection with someone can be really, really important. And that actually can also, paradoxically, that can be something that's a bit frightening to think about. If you've perhaps been really unwell, you've perhaps been finding it hard to make connections. So one thing that you can think about when you look at the courses that we deliver is what sort of depth of connection you want to make. Some of our courses are webinars, and a webinar is really one way. So you can see us, you can hear us, you can type a message in a box and talk to us that way. But you yourself on the other end of the screen, you can't be seen, you can't be heard. And so if perhaps you're really wanting to maybe dip your toe in the water and figure some stuff out for yourself before you start to connect more with people, that might be a good place to start. And I think those ones that you mentioned, Chime, Introduction, you know, what is recovery, those ones are both webinars. And having delivered on those, actually one thing that came through really clearly was you do still get that sense of other people coming on this journey with you. People do make comments, and you know, the tutors will feed those comments back to the group, and you can still get that sense of connection, but perhaps in a way that just feels safe to you. Sort of a level above that, and something that's really, really expanded since coronavirus made us all change our working practices a bit, is the Zoom courses. So when we move to a Zoom course, you can see and hear people, and we really encourage you in a Zoom course to try to put your camera on, to try to, you know, put your audio on so you can talk to us. Because those courses are perhaps some of the ones Mark was mentioning that are the building and the understanding and the growing courses that might go on for more than 1 week. And that's where you can really see that privilege that we have as tutors of people, you know, feeling safe enough to share something personal to them in a way that helps the other people on the course. And I keep seeing it over and over again, how much as students and as practitioners and tutors we get from hearing the experiences of other people trying to put these recovery principles into practice. And that's so critical to what makes our courses come alive. So on a Zoom course, you can be much more interactive. We know people have bad days. You know, that's just the nature of the journey that we're on. There's going to be times when you do sit there perhaps with your camera off and you don't necessarily talk much, but you're still there, and you might even contribute in the chat if that feels like a safe way to put something out there. And then the sort of other level is that we're now coming more back into the classroom, much more face to face than we've been able to have for a couple of years. And that's amazing too, because like Mark was saying, that sense of community can be really built there. You see the same people, you know, you maybe have a chat with them in the break, and that is such a safe space to start making connections, to feeling a bit more empowered. And I know, Mark, it really sort of brought it home to me when you said after the first time you came in, you ran out again, but you felt okay to come back. And that's what we're trying to really create here, is that it's a really warm welcome space for you to tell us where you're at, and we'll meet you there as far as we can. So that's sort of a lot about a sort of general sense of the courses. Do you think, Danny, that kind of covers what you were hoping people to understand about? Yeah.
I think it's really useful. Thank you for both your insights and sharing that. What I perhaps might mention now quickly that might be useful for people is our website, just to find more information around these things. So the easiest way I always find it is to Google or use a search engine and just type in NSFT, Norfolk Suffolk Foundation Trust, so NSFT Recovery College, and that will bring up our website. On the front page of the website, there is a video. It was shot pre-COVID, but it's still very much relevant, and it has lots of experiences of people that have been tutors or students at Recovery College sharing those on video that can be quite useful. So that gives a really, I think, interesting and quite useful overview of another sort of things to expect around Recovery College. So that's the video. Then on that page as well, you can click. There's a tab on the left that says Our Courses. If you click on that tab, it takes you to the next page. And on there, on the bottom right, you can look at prospectus. So the prospectus will open up on a separate tab or a PDF, and that gives you all of the courses that Recovery College has co-produced, with a description underneath of what those courses entail and some bullet points to summarise them as well. So that's quite useful for people. Perhaps if you're unsure about any courses, or you might read the title in a timetable or see it somewhere and think, I'm not really sure what that covers. So that's the prospectus. And then also we will have our summer timetable out soon, which again is under that page. So you can Google NSFT Recovery College, click on Our Courses, and that will take you to the page where we also have our summer timetable, which will start from May. And that will tell you all of the courses. It will tell you which ones are available via webinar, which ones are available on Zoom, and also which ones are being delivered face-to-face. So there is quite a lot of information on our website that you can find out all this information on. Okay, so what we would like to do now, Rowena, are you happy just to talk about how to sign up for a course and the sort of practicalities of that side?
Yeah, of course. So if you want to enroll at the Recovery College, you'll need to go to our website, and on the first page, you'll need to refer to the How to Sign Up tab. And then on the How to Sign Up tab, it tells you all the steps you'll need to follow. So for a new student, you'll need to click on the hyperlink that says Mind Recovery Net, and then it will take you to the registration form. And then on the registration form, you'll need to let us know all your details, such as your first name, date of birth and address. And once you've completed this, then you'll be sent an automated email. And this email you'll get is once the administrator has checked through to see whether you're in a catchment area to attend the Recovery College. So you'll need to be living in Norfolk and Suffolk. And then when you get your enrolment email, you'll be able to enroll onto courses. So there's one of 3 ways that you can enroll onto a course. So you can either phone us, send us an email, or you can access the self-booking portal. So the self-booking portal, you'll be able to see all the courses that we have to offer. You'll be able to view the courses you've booked onto, as well as the emails that we've sent you. So when you want to book on a new course, you can, as I said, phone, email, or go on the self-booking portal. Once you've gone on the self-booking portal and booked yourself on a course, then you'll be sent an automated email. And this includes all the information that you'll need to know before the course, such as the venue, time, and the joining link as well. And if you're struggling to stay organised, then you don't need to worry, because you'll also get an automated reminder email 1 day before the course as well. So a lot of our students have found this helpful. But if you're struggling to choose your courses, then you can book onto a course choice support session. So this is a one-to-one call with a Recovery College tutor, and then they can help guide you choose courses that would suit your needs. And you can have as many course choice support sessions as you need. So if you found 30 minutes wasn't enough, then you do have the opportunity to book onto more.
Thank you, Rowena. That's really, really helpful in terms of how to sign up, and hopefully lets useful for people in terms of the process, what to know, and what to expect as well. The only other thing I thought I'd just quickly add on there was our eligibility. Rowena did touch upon it as well. So the Recovery College, in terms of how we used to be, which I don't need to go into now, but in terms of the eligibility criteria, it's all open up now. So for anybody listening, in terms of how to join up to Recovery College, you just need to be 16 or above and live in Norfolk or Suffolk. So as long as you meet those two criteria, then anybody is obviously able to sign up to our courses, which are completely free. Sometimes you might have NHS staff attend a course. Some NHS staff might attend for their own professional development. Equally, some staff attend for their own well-being as well. You might have staff from different organisations. You might have carers and supporters of people. You might have people, perhaps sort of more members of the public who haven't necessarily accessed mental health services, but would like some support of their own mental health. And obviously, you have people that have maybe in secondary mental health services or perhaps have been discharged that want to continue sort of looking at their own recovery. Rowena, would you be happy just to talk as well just about the sign-up process if you don't have an email address? Is that something you could talk about?
Yeah, of course. So we do try our best to meet all people's reasonable adjustments. And if you're not very good with tech, then you can give us a phone call and we can manually enroll you to the Recovery College on our end. But if you don't have an email address and you're unable to create an email address, then you can still register to the Recovery College and we would add you to the postal list. But it's just very encouraged to have an email address because you'll need to have an email address to enroll onto webinar and Zoom courses. Because if you don't have an email address, you'll only be able to access the classroom courses.
Thank you, Rowena. That's really useful as well. So that kind of brings us to the end of our podcast. Hopefully that was helpful in regards to who we are and what to expect on a course, some of the types of courses that we offer. We had some very interesting sort of insights from Mark and Hannah and Rowena as well. So hopefully collectively that was quite useful if you're perhaps unsure about Recovery College or we're considering perhaps signing up for a course, but perhaps had some sort of questions around it. Also, we would perhaps encourage you to look at our social media feeds. And as I mentioned, our website as well, that has lots of information around the prospectus, timetables, videos. It also has tabs on the origin of Recovery College. So there's lots of information on the website as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today and listening. Hope it was helpful. And we all hope to see you on courses in the future. Thanks a lot. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to make sure you don't miss a future episode. Let us know what you thought of this episode by reaching out on social media. If you haven't already, listen back to previous episodes to hear some of the best mental health advice for you.